Hey everyone, welcome back to the series on the Orient Red 1984 wagon. Today I'm going to call it the general service video. We're going to do a lot of stuff in this video. We're going to do a valve adjustment, transmission mount, transmission cooler lines, shifter bushings. We're going to change all the fluid and filters. We're going to change the thermostat. I'm going to install the refinished wheels and the new tires. And stay to the end because you're going to see me test the SLS system with all the new components. So let's go ahead and get started. Guys, all the cars that you see in these videos are for sale on my website, www.woodsandbarclay.com. Enjoy the video. All right, guys, the first thing I do before starting to bleed the brakes, I've just started a gravity bleed. I cracked all my bleeders, and I just let fluid come all the way through and start dripping out. And then I'm going to do a pressure bleed after that. Let's go look on this side over here. Yep, see all the fluid dripping out right here? That means it's come through the system. So I'm going to just tighten it back up now. All right, what you see here is this contraption, the Motive Power Bleeder. And this is great for bleeding brakes if you're, a one-man job. If you have a helper, you have them sit in the car, press the brake pedal while you crack the bleeder, and then let off the pedal, you can do it that way. Well, the one of these, I can just connect the cap. I'm going to pressurize the system to like 10 psi, and I've got the reservoir filled with fresh brake fluid, and we want to flush that through. We'll flush all that through, then refill it, and then bleed the air. Do the final bleed. Okay, we're going to get about 10 psi. You don't want to go much more than that. You don't want to mess up any of the seals in your master cylinder or whatnot. All right, let me show you how this works. All right, there we go. There's some bubbles coming out of there. Let it bleed for a second. There we go. And then I'll tighten it back up. Now we're going to do this like 3 or 4 times on every side of the car just to make sure. Okay, here we are on the driver's side. Let's see what we have here. There we go, see our bubbles? Now I want to go in the car and pump the brakes a couple of times and then come back and repeat the process. And guys, you don't need to use any fancy brake fluid. This is just, there you go, CarQuest .3, use .3 or .4. It doesn't matter. These are not high performance sports cars. Regular old brake fluid's fine. Now this reservoir, there's a divider wall in the middle. Let's see, the front reservoir is for the rear brakes, and it's shaped like a triangle. So your front one is actually smaller. There's a smaller reservoir. The rear reservoir is for your front brakes. All right, I've bled this system through like 3 reservoirs. You can see our fluid is now coming out clear. I've used like half a whole jug of one of these. So let's go ahead and just top it off, get our levels back up, and then we are done bleeding the brakes. And guys, brake fluid is nasty stuff. You do not want to get that on your paint. That's why I have this car cover here on the fender, fender cover. Let's go ahead and fill this up for the last time. See, it fills up that rear reservoir first, and then it overflows. You can see it right there, overflowing into the front, and then our front comes up. And there we go. That should come up to right about the max line. Perfect. We are done with the brake system. But let's go ahead and get the oil filter housing lid off of here. Now, getting these covers off, or caps off, is sometimes tricky. You got to squeeze them by the vacuum lines and the heater hose back there. There we go. All right, and the brand filter for air cleaners too, I really like Hengst. They're German made. I used to use a lot of Man, but I noticed that the man air filters aren't fitting correctly anymore. I'm not sure what they did. They're just like too tight. So I've started using Hengst, and like I said, I just like them better. Okay, I'm gonna get the car up and drain the oil. We'll leave the cap off for now. But there is our gasket that goes on the cap, and there's our crush washer for the oil pan. And I'll just go ahead and prepare our new oil cap here. We'll throw that old O-ring away. There we go. Let's get the car up and get this old oil out of here. All right, let's get this black gold out of here. And when you change your oil, you always want to use the new crush washer. Now, you can get away with reusing your old one. If you just flip it over, you can get another use out of it. You can get a couple of uses out of them. But the filters come with a new one, so just go ahead and change it. All right, we'll get that snug down. Then we're going to go ahead and drain the transmission fluid. Now, guys, you can also drain the torque converter and get the fluid out of the torque converter. But I'm going to first see how dirty this transmission fluid is, because if it's already been changed and it's not dirty, we're not going to waste time changing the fluid in the torque converter. We're just going to remove the pan and replace the gasket, because there'll be no need. Now, if it's really dirty and black, then we're going to drain the torque converter. But judging from the rest of this vehicle, how it's looked, it's probably going to be bright red. Oh, man, yeah. That's like brand new transmission fluid. God, I should have never drained it. I should have checked it up top. That's like brand new fluid in there. I hate it when I do that. Okay, so I probably didn't need to drain that, but now that we've already drained it, I'm going to go ahead and remove the pan. These are 13 millimeter. All right, we've got those two diagonal ones, so I'm going to slowly remove this one up here. All right, then we're going to take this one out and lower the pan down. Okay, she is ready to come down. Let's see how clean it is up in here. Wow, look at that. Look how clean that is. That is super clean. Look at that. See how red the fluid is, guys? I totally did not need to change that, but whatever. Now it's going to be good. So here's the filter. We're going to go ahead and unscrew the Phillips here and get this filter out and put in a fresh filter. And then, of course, the pan gasket here. We're going to take off this pan gasket, which peels off here, clean up our pan, and put on a new pan gasket. Okay, these filters are held on by, we have a screw here, and we have one here, and there is one right there. All right, then this filter just comes straight down. Now, I always like to compare my filter to my new filter, the old one to the new one, just to make sure it's the right size and type. All right, there's our pan gasket, there's our Mercedes filter, and there is the old filter. So let's just make sure these filters are the same. Yep, those are identical. So sometimes on different cars, this will be a different height. Yep, that's identical. Now, guys, you can see how clean this was. Look how red all the filter elements are in this one. This one was not even I mean, I could almost like save this filter and use it on something else. But whatever. We're putting on a brand new one with a brand new gasket. Okay, these filters, so there's like, I think that's probably an intake and maybe that's in and out. I can't remember. It might be the other way around. But you see there's a little cork gasket around both of those. I don't know if you can see that. So you just want to position that, and you can't put it on wrong because the holes won't bolt up. But you just want to line up your gasket. There we go. That's lined up, and we'll slip in one of our Phillips over here. You notice how clean this one is on the inside. Transmissions like to be extremely clean, same as engines. So don't go poking around up here with, dirty hands with dirt all over them. You can see I have gloves on, and they're clean gloves with only transmission fluid on them. And that's aluminum, so you just snug it up. This thing's not going anywhere. Those are all snugged up, and you're good. Now we need to go clean the pan before we reinstall it. All right, let me get this old gasket off of here. All right, it's already clean. We just want to make sure, because you don't want any dirt getting in your transmission. So let's get this all cleaned up. All right, let me wipe down with a rag and get our gasket. All right, these gaskets are pretty cool. They have little hooks built in to both sides, and you just place them over the pan, and those little hooks actually clip in around the sides and hold them in place. All right, there we go. This gasket and pan are ready to be put back on the car. Okay guys, the important part when you put on a transmission pan there you go, is you do not want to over torque the bolts. Okay, and keep in mind, I'll wipe that all off. That's from the parts washer. But those two will hold it in place. Now I just want to gently snug them all down right here. Don't crank them down. You just snug them up there, and the gasket does all the work. And you notice I'm feeding all these in by hand. No electric tools here. And you just want to snug them all up. All right, guys, that's it. You let the gasket do the rest. And let's go ahead and wipe off this pan. That's probably the best that pan looked in the last 20 years. There we go. Nice. All right, now let's put our drain plug back in. And you have to put a little crush washer on there too. And here you go. There's your little crush washer for the drain plug. And this one you just tighten until you feel the crush washer crush. There we go. Let's get some fluid in here. I've started using a new oil. It's Monolec engine oil, SAE 15W40. It's made by Lubrication Engineers. Now, this is the stuff I was using in my professional race car. I used it in the transmission fluid, and I used engine oil, I used diff fluid. This stuff is very good. I used it in the race car because, especially for the transmission fluid, because of its heat resistance. It was a manual 5-speed transmission. You know, when you're racing, it takes a ton of abuse. And their transmission fluid was just absolutely fantastic, manual transmission fluid. But I called them, and they sent me a ton of their diesel engine oil, 15W40. So I'll flash up the contact information here. Just call them, say Woods and Barclay sent you. I think you'll get a discount. I don't make a penny from this, guys. I'm just showing you the stuff that I like to use. Now you can also use Rotella T4 15W40. I also use that stuff. That's great. But Lubrication Engineers, that's my go-to. All right, guys, I've already got the oil filter in there, and I've got my new O-ring here. Now, when you're putting this in, you want to be careful. A lot of guys make the mistake of knocking one of these vacuum lines loose. And then they'll, when they're done, the car won't turn off or the vacuum locks won't work. So just pay attention to what you're doing. And if you knock one loose, just plug it back in. You see, this is where they all connect right here. I've done it before. It's easy to do. See, I got to move them out of the way there. We got to move this heater hose out of the way. Oh, see, I just knocked a vacuum line loose. That's funny. All right, there's the one I knocked loose, guys. That's your, let's see, this is the vacuum line for the door locks. So all I do is just come down here and I just plug it back in. Easy to do when you're changing this filter. All right, got the vacuum line plugged in. Let's put our nuts back on there. And guys, you don't need to crank these nuts down. It's only like, 10 foot-pounds. The O-ring does all the work. All right, one good snug turn, and that's all you need. That's it, guys. Don't go cranking those down or you'll pull your studs out. All right, let's go ahead and check our dipstick. We have oil right on the money. It's funny, with diesel oil, the second it goes in the engine, it's black again. You never have clear diesel oil. All right. Okay, for the transmission fluid, as I was pouring it out or draining it, I measured how many of these it filled up. That just makes it easier for me to refill it. It was like one of these large ones and 3.5 of these small ones. But what you want to use is Dexron 3. There you go. That's the type of transmission fluid you want to use. So let's go ahead and pour my containers back in here. All right, we have the engine oil and transmission fluid changed along with the brake fluid. Next thing I want to do before we start our valve adjustment is drain our coolant and put in some fresh coolant. So let's go ahead and do that. First thing we want to do here, guys, is pop our cap to our reservoir. There we go. That'll let it flow out really fast. Now, if you go down under the front of the car, there we go. There is your drain. There we go. There's our drain right there. You just take a big flathead and you can open that thing up. Now, let me go get a catch can. Oh, there we go. Back up because this is messy. There we go. Okay, we can see our coolant reservoir is drained and all the fluid has drained out. Now we want to refill it. Here's the correct stuff to use. You can use the blue stuff or the gold stuff. This is the gold stuff. Zurex, Mercedes-Benz. So we'll fill it with that. But now is a good time to go ahead and change our thermostat. I don't know when the thermostat was changed on this car, so we're just going to go ahead and throw in a new one. Okay, so I'm just inspecting some of the belts and hoses up here, and this hose has been changed. This is not an old hose, but like I said, I don't know when that thermostat was changed. So let's go ahead and get that off. Now that's just 3 10-millimeter bolts. And you just got to get down here. One. And this is just going to take me a minute, guys. So this is the wagon, some of the hydraulic fluid goes through here. So I had to disconnect the little clip that holds it right here. This little grommet. And I can get up underneath it. There we go. And I can get that top one right there. All right, we got those loose. Now the tricky one, you guys can't see it, but it's down here on the bottom. And you just got to do that by feel because you can't really see down there. It looks like the belts have already been changed on here too. See, I mean, I've got, 50 pages of service records back there. It was clearly being serviced, so it doesn't look like I need to change any belts or hoses. But on the safe side, we want to change the thermostat because I don't feel like combing through all those records. I can actually see that the water pump has been changed too because I see a little fresh silicone around there where they used a little bit of silicone to seal it. Well, that's good. Okay, now these bolts, I'm going to put anti-seize on them when I put them back in. That way, this is a steel bolt and that's an aluminum housing. So it's always good to put anti-seize on these before you put them back in there. That way they'll never seize into that aluminum housing. Okay, that thermostat housing is loose. Now we can just grab right here and pop this thing off. There we go. All right, let's take a look at this thing, see how dirty it is. All right, there we go. Let's get this out of here. Yep, that one's been in here for a while. I'm glad I checked it. Yep, there we go. That is probably, who knows how old that one is. So yeah, let's go ahead and throw in our new one. Now it's important, the orientation. It goes in the engine like that. It doesn't go in the engine like that because you can accidentally put it in backwards. So it goes in, there's our housing right there. This fits into the housing like that and goes in the engine in that direction. Okay, the gasket that comes with it, it's this weird little gasket that slips around the edge like this. This is our new thermostat. You can see it says 80 degrees. And there we go. So let's go ahead and plug this back in here. And here's our housing. It's very clean in the housing. That thermostat just sits right down in there. Let me record that for you guys. There we go. That's how that goes in, right like that. Now I'll just get this around the front of the engine. We'll plug that back in there. Okay, I don't know how fun it's going to be for you guys to watch from up there. And it just goes right back up there. Let me get some anti-seize on the bolts and I'll put those back in here and then we'll refill the system. All right, I just finished putting in the new thermostat and I need to run up to the auto parts store to get some more coolant to refill the system. So before I do that, let's go ahead and address the fuel filter. Now, our main fuel filter is right there. And we have a pre-fuel filter, which is, you guys can barely see it down here. There we go. It's right there. Now, that is a genuine Mercedes pre-fuel filter. I do not like the Mercedes ones because they are not clear. You can't see through them. Let me show you the ones I like to use. All right, here we go. This is a Hengst. They're a German company. See, made in Germany, but it's clear. You can see through it to tell when it gets dirty and it's time to change it. So we're going to take that one out and put this one in. Now, I already see that the previous owners, if you can see right here at the bottom, this is a Bosch primer pump. They've already replaced the original primer pump, so that's good. The original ones have an O-ring that will start to leak just because they're old. So that's good. We don't need to put in a new Bosch primer pump. This is that's like an upgrade I do on every car. So that's good. So we'll put in this small one. Now our main fuel filter, there we go. We're going to use a MAN filter. That's actually that's the company or the supplier that actually makes them for Mercedes. If you go to the dealer, you're going to get a MAN filter. And that comes off, I think that's a 22 or 24 millimeter. So let's go ahead and take that off of there. Now, you're going to spill diesel when you do this. It's okay. It won't hurt anything. But you just loosen this nut here, or this bolt, I'm sorry. And then your fuel filter comes loose, and you can just spin it off of there. Oh, there we go. All right. Now let's just kind of snake this up here. We actually didn't spill any. There we go, Molly Bear. That's also a good brand. Now, let's get our new filter. All right, guys, before we install the new filter, you want to fill it up with fresh diesel. Otherwise, it's going to be hard to start the car because you'll have air in the fuel system. Okay, this is where it can get a little messy. See if we can snake this down here without spilling anything. Get it up under there. All right, there we go. That's good. Now I'll just wipe it off a little bit. All right, let's go ahead and change the small pre-fuel filter. Now guys, this is something you absolutely need to know how to do, because you need to keep one of these in your glove box, because when these clog up, you'll like be on the interstate, you know, going 70 miles an hour. All of a sudden your speed will drop to like 40 miles an hour. You'll think you've ruined your engine, and all it is a clogged pre-fuel filter. So you see there's a hose clamp here and right there. You just loosen those and you can pull this out. So you keep one of these in your glove box with a short little stubby screwdriver so you can get down in here and get those off. All right, here's my little stubby screwdriver. I keep one like this, and there we go. We just loosen that one. So let me do this while I'm not recording, and it'll be much easier. Okay, I've got those loose. And again, this, you'll spill diesel. It's okay. It's not going to hurt anything. You just pull it out there. Now I'll put my hand over one end of it. There we go. So your diesel doesn't run out. Cover one side of it. We'll just toss that on the ground. All right, here is our Hangst one. We'll plug that in right there. And plug it in right there. Simple as that, you guys. And you need to know how to do that, because you have to, oftentimes when you end up doing that, you've got it clogged up and you have to pull over to a gas station and do it in the gas station parking lot and then get back on the road. That is a maintenance item you need to know about. Okay, here is, so you can see right now our pre-fuel filter is empty. Here's the primer pump. See how it's filling up there? Let me go ahead and zoom in. There you go, watch it. And you want to pump this probably like 30 or 40 times just to make sure. And there we go. All right, we have primed that system. Okay, we've done brake fluid, pre and main fuel filter, engine oil, coolant, transmission oil. The thing we have not done yet is the power steering fluid. Now I'm going to wait on that, because when I re-zinc plate the parts in the engine compartment, I have to disconnect these power steering hoses from the pump and down there from the steering box, and all my fluid's going to drain out when I do that. So we'll address that later. All right, what we're going to do now is extract all of the SLS leveling fluid. I'm not sure how old that fluid is. I have this great tool. You can hook up the air hose to it and open it up, and it sucks all the fluid out. Then we're going to refill it with fresh fluid, and when we crank the vehicle to test the SLS system, I'll crack the bleeder in the back of the car and bleed through the fresh fluid, and then put more fresh fluid in there. So in essence, we get to flush the system. All right, there we go. See the fluid coming out? Yeah, it's a little brown, so this fluid hasn't been changed in a while. So we're definitely going to put in fresh fluid. Now you have to use the right stuff, guys, and Phoebe Bilstein sells it. This is the hydraulic fluid, especially formulated for the wagons. Let's see, there's the part number 02615. Check my levels. All right, we have the levels set correctly. On the dipstick, there's a min and max line, and we're right there where we're supposed to be. All right, guys, the final thing we want to do before we fire up the car and test the SLS is change the SLS filter. There we go. And this is our SLS. This is a return line. And it comes through here and then goes through a filter before it drains back in. So we're going to remove that. And then we can take off this whole cap here. There we go. And there is our old filter. I can see the filter element is black. So let me get this on the bench and let's change it. Here is our filter, and I ran down to RBM Mercedes. Here's the number 002-184-5501. I ran down to the local Atlanta Mercedes dealer and picked up a brand new filter. See how clean the elements are in this one? So let's get this filter off and let's put our new filter on. Okay, guys, to get the old filter out of here, you see there's a spring-loaded mechanism that goes through here and it attaches to the cap. And you grab the filter and press down and compress the spring, which then allows the cap to come up and you can get the little hook out. There we go. See? And then the filter comes off. Like that. See, that little hook was holding on to the cap. And then let's put on our new filter. Seat it down into the base there. There we go. And then we want to compress it and re-hook. There we go. There we go. Re-hook our hook to the cap. Let's get that on there a little more straight. And there we go. Now we have a fresh filter that will last for, you know, the next the next decade. Okay, we have that snug back up. So I have all fresh fluid, new filter, new accumulators, new leveling valve. All right, before we do the valve adjustment, I know you guys are waiting to see that. I forgot there's a couple of things I want to do under the car. So one is to replace these are the flexible transmission cooler hoses. Those are the originals. And we have the reinforced, has the spring or steel, you know, coil around it. We want to put those on there. And our transmission mount. And along with the transmission mount, I think we had, yep, right there. Nope, the shifter bushing is actually good. Let me check this one up here. There we go. See that shifter bushing? It's gone there. So we'll pop this out and replace those shifter bushings. All right, to replace the transmission mount, there's two bolts here. I think those are like 13 millimeter, but you have to get this 19 millimeter nut off. And the way you can do that is get a wrench up there like that. We're going to screw that off of here like that. And then that nut just comes off of there. Now I'm actually going to lift up the transmission with a telescoping jack, and that'll give us room to get this out. All right, there we go. I got a telescoping jack under here. Take a little pressure off of there. There we go. All right, I simply lifted up the transmission with the telescoping jack. We can just pull this guy right out of here. Here's our new one to our old one. And this is a original Mercedes, just old stock. See, there's the part number right there. And you can see the rubber is way better condition. Now, what you see there, guys, that's like just the flaking, some paint from the factory. I think they painted these, but you can see there. See, it says 47 and 47. And this one, you know, this one isn't horrible. Probably still has some life left in it, but that one will have many, many years to go. All right, beautiful. you see this is the, now guys, that's coolant on there. That's not transmission fluid. When I was filling the hose up top, I disconnected the upper radiator hose to pour coolant down in it. I dripped a lot down in here, so that's why you see wetness. But to get these lines off, these are the cooler lines that send your transmission fluid into the radiator and then, you know, back around. You have to put on a 19 and a 17. Now, if you do this quickly, you really don't lose much transmission fluid. Let's just crack this thing loose. There we go, that one's loose. And then up here, the radiator. There we go. So those are both loose. All right, I'm just gonna cover that with my finger. And we'll get this one off here. All right, let's get our new one on there. All right, we got that one started. And let's get this one on up here. Okay, we got that one started. I'll show you how much fluid we lost, guys. That's all you lose. There's my foot right there. It's like maybe a shot glass. I'm just wiping off the coolant from where I filled that upper radiator hose. All right, cool. Knock out the other side, then let's go to the shifter bushings. Okay, here I'm under the car. See, there's the transmission pan, and I'm looking back towards the back of the car. We need to get that clip off the shifter linkage, and to put in the new bushing, you see there's a 10 millimeter right there. It might be an 8 millimeter. I think it's a 10. There we go. We're going to take that bolt out and then slip that shifter arm off of there and take it out of the car to put in a new bushing. Okay, these are a little bag of shifter bushings I have. This is what they look like. And this bushing actually goes right through there, and there's a special tool I have to install it. So basically, you can get these things from Kent out at Mercedes Source. I'm sure you guys have seen the videos. But you put it in there, and you slip the bushing over there, and you squeeze it, and it presses it in. However, it's extremely difficult to get that in there. So let me show you guys what I do. We heat it up a little bit in the microwave. Not for long. All right, then we can squeeze this tool together and get that bushing in there. I think it just snapped in. And there we go, guys. A perfectly pressed in new bushing. Let's go put this back on the car. There we go. You can see we got our clip right there and our new bushing. We got our bolt back in there, and we got our shifter bushing installed up there with the clip on. That will make sure your shifter handle inside the car is not sloppy. It's really important to do that. Now, it'll still shift even if you don't do that, but that shifter handle will have a lot of play in it, and that will eliminate that. What we want to do now is remove the valve cover. I want to do a valve adjustment, and I want to change out these old diesel return hoses here. And I see this all the time, guys. People install these black hoses. That's the aftermarket hoses. This is the one thing that I will always buy from Mercedes. It is the diesel return hoses. Mercedes, they're like a gray color. Let me show you. Here you go. Here is the genuine Mercedes hose. It's like gray with this little orange stripe. Guys, this stuff lasts way longer and is way better than the aftermarket stuff. Like I said, this is one of the few things that I always say buy from Mercedes. Now, in a pinch, these are going to work fine. I mean, I don't know, they're going to last a year or so, but these right here last a very long time. I mean, who knows, maybe 2 or 3 years. So I'm going to go ahead and get all that off after the valve adjustment and put on the new return hoses. Now, guys, what I also like to do, since I am going to be re-zinc plating all the parts, especially this on the cruise control actuator, this cap gets zinc plated and so does the base. It's much easier to remove the valve cover when the cruise control is not on here. So I'm just going to go ahead and remove the cruise control actuator also. All right, let's get our cruise control out of here. Okay, we're going to go ahead and remove our breather tube here. All right, there we go. There's our old valve cover gasket fell off of there. All right. All right, guys, first thing I always do is pull on the timing chain, and you can see there's zero timing chain stretch. These timing chains on these old diesel Mercedes, I mean, they last, you might need to check it at like 300,000 miles. They're always super tight. Now, down there, there's our tensioner. You can see it right there. That actually, see it moving? That fills with oil and tensions the timing chain. And first thing I notice is how clean it is in here. And there's no scoring. See the cam lobes? See how clean they are? There's no scoring or scratching. That means the oil was changed regularly. See how clean that is? Because if you have dirty, contaminated oil, you'll get scratches and debris on your cam lobes. So this looks absolutely fantastic in here. Anyway, so for a valve adjustment, what we want to do, you see, here's a cam lobe, and underneath it is a rocker arm. So when that cam lobe goes down, it pushes on the rocker arm and opens the valve. And you have intake and exhaust valves. Intake is for the air, exhaust is obviously to expel the exhaust from the system. Now, there has to be a gap in between this cam lobe and the intake. I'm sorry, the cam lobe and the rocker. And that gap is right here. This is where they tell you. Okay, let's see. There we go. At water temp below 30 degrees Celsius, meaning a cold engine, the intake gap is 0.10 millimeters and the exhaust is 0.35 millimeters. And then it says valve lash at water temp above 45, which we're not above 45. They add 0.05 to the intake. So its intake is 0.15, and they add 0.05 to the exhaust, 0.40, because the metals expand and contract depending on the temperature, and they account for that. So again, we're doing the intake at 0.10, the exhaust at 0.35. So let me go ahead and show you how to adjust a couple of these, and I'll go through all of it offline, off camera. Now, if you want to see a detailed valve adjustment, you can just type in, 300D valve adjustment on YouTube, and you'll see some of my other videos where I go into extreme detail. Okay, so the position of the cam lobe, you want to check the base of the cam lobe is where the gap needs to be, not the tip of the lobe. So you can see this one right here. And so that means you want to have the lobe about somewhere around 12 to 1 o'clock. That one's in the perfect position. We are on the base. So let me see if this is an exhaust or an intake. Okay, that was the fifth lobe. And we can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. See, this is the front of the engine. So the fifth lobe is an exhaust lobe. There we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's our exhaust lobe. Okay, here's my feeler gauges. This one, you guys can't see it. It says 0.10 millimeters. And this one here says 0.35 millimeters. So we want to stick this right here. Oh, look at that. That is perfectly adjusted. That is exactly, you just want a little bit of drag, and we have just a little bit of drag. That's perfect. We don't need to adjust that. It's exactly 0.35 millimeters. So what we want to do now is roll the cam lobes, find the next one that's about to be at 1 o'clock, and there we go. It's that one all the way in the back. So let's rotate the engine until this one is at the 12 to 1 o'clock position. And that one in the back, I'm going to mark off that I just checked this one. The one in the back is an intake, so we need to change to our 0.10. Okay, we have our 0.10 filler gauge. Oh, look at that. That one is also perfectly adjusted. Okay, so I'm suspecting that the previous owners recently had a valve adjustment done. So I'm going to go through the rest of these off camera until I find one that actually needs adjusting, and then I'll record the adjustment process. All right, I found one that needs adjusted. You can see I'm here on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And number 8, I have the base of the cam lobe right here, and that's an exhaust lobe. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Exhaust right there. And I have my 0.35 feeler gauge, 0.35 millimeters, and you can see I cannot get the feeler gauge in there. So that one's a little tight, because over time, that's what the valves do. They tighten up the intake and exhaust. So I need to loosen this one up a little bit. All right, guys, what you can see here, you have the aluminum colored nut, and then underneath it, you have like the steel colored nut, right? So this one, that sets our clearance, the top one, and the bottom one's really a lock nut. Now those are threaded onto the valve stem, right? So if I go counterclockwise, it's going to move it up the valve stem and push up on the rocker, which is going to close the gap, close the clearance. I want to actually move it down. I want to thread them down and turn them clockwise. And that will just barely open up the gap. So first I'll break them loose. I'll turn the top one counterclockwise and break it loose from the lock nut. And then I'll turn the lock nut down a couple of threads and then follow it with the nut on top a couple of threads and then tighten them back up. And that should open up our gap. And we'll put a wrench here on the bottom nut and a wrench on the top nut. Now I'm going to hold the bottom nut still, and I'm going to do the top nut counterclockwise. All right, there we go. That is now broken loose. All right, next I'm going to tighten down the bottom nut and follow it with the top nut. Not to change my wrench position. There we go. Now I'm going to tighten down the top nut. I just turned it a little. I want to go ahead and check the clearance now. There we go. Now our feeler gauge, we can slip right in there. Now that's a little loose, but when I tighten up the lock nut, it's going to push up just a little bit, and it's going to tighten that. You'll get the feel for this, guys, once you've done it a few times. The first time you do it, this is going to take you hours because you don't have the feel for it yet. But then, like, I can knock it out in about 45 minutes. All right, so I want to tighten up the lock nut now because it's a little loose. So I'm going to just go here that way and then tighten that bottom nut up. Here we go. That is now tight. There we go. We have to push in ever so slightly to get it to go in there. We just want a little drag. So that's a perfect adjustment on that one. All right, I am done with the valve adjustment. Got my check marks by every one. Now I only found 3 that needed adjusting, and they were just barely out. Like, for example, I just did this intake right here, and it was 0.02 millimeters out. So, and then I found the other 2 were exhaust. So other than those 3 adjustments, this was an excellent adjustment and not much needed to be done. So let's go ahead now and we'll clean up our valve cover. And keep in mind, all these pieces are getting replated. So I'm going to go ahead and remove these. We'll clean up our valve cover in the parts washer and get a new valve cover gasket installed. Like I said, all of this is going off to the plater. Now, I already have a set at the plater that's getting plated, that's coming back for this car. And when I get that set back, this set will go out. It's all the same exact parts. And here's our old gasket. We'll just throw that away. Now, let's clean this up in the parts washer. All right, that one came out pretty damn nice. That's actually one of the better factory original valve covers I've seen. That one cleaned up really nice. All right, let's go ahead. And guys, you don't have to clean in here. That's where the oil is from the engine. It's just going to immediately get black again when you crank the engine. Let's go ahead and put our valve cover gasket on. And there's two brands I like to use. This one is Victor Rhines. I also like L-Ring, but there's our gasket and there's their part number. But yeah, L-Ring or Victor Rhines make really nice quality gaskets. And this has got to be the world's most complex valve cover gasket. Look at that. Anyway, let me get this on here and then we'll get it back on the engine. Okay, so before I put the gasket back on, I like to always look around the mating surface or the head. And I just like to make sure we don't have any debris that's going to get up underneath that gasket. I like to just wipe it off. Okay, there we go. Now, the next thing I like to do is go around and make sure that gasket did not fold under on itself. Otherwise, you'll have a horrible oil leak. Check back here. It's usually back here in the back side where that happens. All right, we're good there. All right, now I'm going to finish it off by hand. All right, guys, there we go. That is done. Okay, the next thing I want to do is get all these diesel return hoses off of here. And I use a lot of this stuff, so I just called RBM Mercedes of Atlanta, and they had 4 meters of it in stock, and I just bought it all. But 1 meter will do the car. But you can just grab these with a pair of needle nose and they just pull straight off. Now see that one ripped apart just because it's old, so you got to take a little razor blade and just cut the little piece off there. Okay, this one right here, this is what goes back to your return line, and this returns to the tank. And you notice there's a little clip right here, so we don't want to break that clip, and we just want to fish this one through the clip because we're going to stick our new one back through that clip. There we go. We'll just fish it right down through there. There we go. We can get this one out of here. I'll take it off the fuel filter assembly. Okay, we have all the little broken pieces off of here. See, there's all the little nipples for the return lines. And that took a minute, guys. That's a pain in the butt. There we go. See, they all like broke right there at the end. So I had to go slice every one of them off and get all the little end pieces off. Now, here's our end cap. So we're going to remove that steel plug right here and put it in our new line. All right, so there's our little plug. I just pulled it out, and I'll cut off a piece of fresh hose and we'll just put that plug in the end, and that'll be our little deadhead injector plug. All right, there we go. That'll probably be good for the next 30 years, guys. But let's go ahead and cut all the rest of the lines. And guys, to cut these, all you do, just take a nice, fresh, sharp razor blade, and you can just slice right through it. So I'm going to measure it all out, get it the right length and reinstall it on here, and I'll show you when I'm done. And I'll do one just so you guys can see it. But what I do, guys, here's the tip of it. I put a little dab of motor oil right there, and that lets it slip on easier. So for example, we're just going to go to this one right here. And I'm going to slip this on there and just twist and push all the way down. And then I'm going to run to my next one here. Let's see, we'll take a little measurement. Okay, I want it to be right about there is where I want to cut it. And I'll just set it up here on the valve cover. There we go. And we'll just slice right through it. And I'll put just a little dab of motor oil. There we go. And we'll just run it right down onto there. Sorry if you guys can't see that. I'm just pushing it right there under that little nipple. And there we go. There's our nice fresh line. So we're going to do that all the way down. Okay, I have all the lines replaced and correctly routed through the clip. And this one folds down and goes into the clip here so it doesn't interfere with the throttle linkage. And we have our new plug. And that will be good for many years to come. Okay, so the last thing we want to do is put on the new wheels and tires. And there they are, freshly powder coated. That's the exact correct Mercedes color. New center caps. And guys, these are Uniroyal. And I use the Tiger Paw. There we go, Uniroyal Tiger Paw. Now, what a lot of people don't know, you can't buy Michelins for these cars anymore. The Michelin Defenders. They stopped making them like 3 years ago. However, Michelin owns Uniroyal. And Uniroyal provides the right size. So this is actually a different branding, still owned and produced by Michelin. I use these on every single vehicle. I had them on my personal vehicle. They're excellent tires, and I put them on every car. All right, let's get our new wheels and tires on and finally test out, crank the car up, and we'll test out our SLS system. And I'll, of course, torque these down with a torque wrench when I get it back on the ground. But that looks very nice. I still need to put the lug bolts back there, guys, but those new wheels and tires look fantastic. And keep in mind, I haven't even detailed the vehicle yet. Just wait till Scott gets a hold of it. Okay, you can see I have ramps, or what would you call those? I mean, yeah, they're race ramps. Anyway, I can lower the car onto all 4 of the ramps. And what I'm going to do, I've disconnected the leveling valve rod. And now once the car is lowered to the ramps, I'm going to go ahead and crank it up, and we're going to manually actuate that leveling rod and confirm that the SLS system is raising and lowering. So let's go ahead and get it down onto the ramps. All right, the car is back under its own suspension. All right, what you can see there, we no longer have the lift supporting the vehicle. We're going to fire it up for the first time since doing all the fluid and filter changes. I'm just helping the car to settle here. Okay, it's been several weeks since we've started the car. We've also drained all the diesel out, and so this could take a second. We'll see. Just let our glow plugs run there. We're just going to let them run for a second. I'm actually going to cycle them twice since, you know, we've had all the diesel out, and there might be air pockets in here, and I just want to give it a fighting chance here to fire up the first time. All right, let's see what happens. Holy cow. This thing fired right up. All right, let's check. We should build oil pressure. Nice, because we just remember we put in a new fluid, new filter. Wow, that thing fired right up and is running perfect. I thought it was going to take a little more than that. Now you see the battery light's on. I just need to bump the throttle so the alternator picks up and that light will go off. But I don't have my throttle linkage connected, so we can't do that right now. All we can do is start it and stop it. I think I could actually pull it from here. Yeah, we can actuate the throttle there. Wow, look how smooth it's idling. Those new engine mounts are awesome. Look at that. See if I can set something up there so it can demonstrate. Very smooth. Okay, I'm gonna let it run for a second and then let's go back and test out this SLS. All right, just wanted to show you, see when I bumped the throttle, see how our battery light went out? That gave the alternator a chance to kick in and start charging that battery because we hadn't started it in a while. So just wanted to show you that that's okay. Okay guys, so the self-leveling system is self-bleeding, but I want to go ahead and crack this bleeder back here and let some fluid come out. Okay, there we go. Whoops, I just dropped my bucket. Okay, we have all fresh, clean fluid that just came out of there because this valve was empty, completely empty, so that's good. So, let's go ahead and get this off of here, and I want to test it by moving the lever. Okay guys, what you want to watch, we want to watch the axle boot, and when I raise this lever, we should see the exhaust start raising up past the axle boot. Now you got to pay attention because these systems don't run really fast. It's just a slow movement. Okay, so we're all the way down right now. So we're going to level it off. Now, watch that axle boot over there when I raise this up. All right, we have max height. Now I'm going to lower it down. Watch the axle boot. All right, you see how the system lowered back down? All right, I'm going to go ahead and exercise it a couple times. We'll level it off there. Now we're going to raise it back up. All right, that's good enough. See, we're fully extended all the way up. And now I'm going to lower it back down. Watch the axle boot. All right. We have a perfectly working SLS system. Okay, I've reattached our leveling rod. If we put weight in the back of the car, it's going to kick up and down. All right, let's go check the ride height. All right guys, there we go. That ride height is excellent. See, the back end's not sagging down. It's correctly sitting up a little. Now, if I kick on that leveling valve, this is going to raise up even more. You know, it raises up probably about, I don't know, 4 inches or so. So that looks fantastic. All right guys, my next video, I was planning on doing the AC system, but as you saw in other videos, the AC compressor and dryer and switches are all actually brand new. So let's test out the AC system real quick, and we might not need to change it. Oh wow, yeah, it's immediately cold. Yes. Oh yes, that's very nice. Okay, so the previous owners already completely redid the AC system, and it's coming out of the center vents. Oh yeah, that's fantastic. Okay. So we're not going to have to redo the AC system. Yeah, it's already ice cold after being on for 5 seconds. All right, let's turn that off. And let's go ahead and shut the car down. Let's check the vacuum system. So 2 second shut off is what the service manual says. Okay, that wasn't even a second. Super healthy vacuum system. Well guys, I hope you enjoyed that video. What you just saw, I think this video is like an hour long. That spanned over like 4 days of work. Anyway, it's crazy how I have to compress them down to like 1 hour segments, or it's just way too long. But we did a ton of stuff in this video. This wagon is fully serviced, all fluids, filters, valve adjustment. We tested the SLS. It's working perfect. I'm just really happy with the progress so far. So in the next video, I think, let's see, it may be zinc plating or it may be wood trim. Yeah, I think in the next video, I'm going to go in the car and actually remove all the wood trim and have that shipped off to Madeira Concepts in California. They have a 3 to 4 week turnaround time for Woods and Barclay, I think, because we send them so much stuff. So anyway, hope you enjoyed the video, and we'll see you next time, guys. Take care.